Welcome to Cass Sculpture Foundation in Goodwood in the south of England. We are here today together with Wilfred and Jeannette Cass, and they talk with us about their foundation, which they set up 25 years ago. It's a great pleasure to be here in Goodwood and to have the possibility to talk with you about the foundation and about Goodwood. And I would like to first begin with Mr. Cass. You have a long and important family history behind you, and what links you to the famous German enterprising and intellectual family Casserer, notably including your great uncles Ernst the philosopher and Paul the art dealer, and what do you think what you have from them?
Well, strangely enough, Paul had a sculpture park, which is not generally known.
No.
Although we tend not to call this a sculpture park because this is a showroom for what we are commissioning. But I don't think he got as far as that. The influence, apart from my family, was really my meeting Henry Moore. And it's quite clear that I used to go and visit him 3 or 4 times a year because he was interested in what I was developing at that time, paints. I was running a company called Hadfields, and we were doing all sorts of interesting paints, some of which worked and some of which didn't. But there were things like, we called it sticky stuff, which became a product. But Henry was very interested in finding new washes. And some of the pictures on the other side here, you can see he's using some of those washes. But Henry, as one got to know him, could talk for hours about his love of sculpture. I always wondered how he got anything done, but I later learned that it was actually, he had lots and lots of assistants.
Right.
And they really did most of the work. He did the drawings, and then they chiseled everything out. So, but quite clear, looking back, he got me interested in sculpture, and particularly sculpture, of course, in the open air, which was the thing that he was really interested in.
And you loved the gardens of sculpture. We spoke about the Fondation Markt, the Markt Foundation.
Oh yes.
We went a few days there. A few days ago we went there. We make a beautiful interview with discussion with Mr. Kaplan, with the director of the Fondation Markt. But you told us it was a big influence for you, the Fondation Markt,
Well,
and the Garden
Markt
of the
Foundation
Sculpture.
was very much an inspiration for us. When it, you never know what clicks into your head at what time. But every time I went to the Markt Foundation, I went lots of times, you couldn't help but be impressed at the view of the sea, the view of the house, and some of the sculptures or geometries, all those things. My parents had sculpture in their home, some of which my brother got.
Art was very important in your family as well. Yeah. So the vein from the Casserers is running very directly. Yeah. But you have also this enterprising side in you. You did so many things, not only in art.
I think that's just how things go with people. That you always get. What used to happen is when I finished one thing, something else came along and you went down that. Of course, the more you do, the more confident you get that you can do almost anything, which isn't true. But
well, you both met each other a little bit later in life.
Yes.
But I think ever since you seem to do even more than you've ever done. So is love the secret?
Well, no, that's fairly simple. Simple to answer. The more you do, the quicker you get at it.
Right.
and you also know your limitations much better. So you don't tackle things that you can't do. For instance, I can't write, but I can get things going. And I think I learned very quickly that you've got to do things quickly.
Right.
And I think that's how it goes, really.
Yeah. And I think you can probably say the same thing about Hat Hill House in Goodwood. You just found it, and that gave you also the possibility to host all your sculptures. And from there on, develop the foundation. And what made you embark on this adventure?
We were having breakfast one morning and looking outside, and we had put a couple of pieces of our sculpture in the garden. And I said to Wilfred, you know, it's very selfish. We are enjoying this, we should be sharing this. And that was when he decided that we would commission sculpture and have it out of doors, which was what Henry Moore always said, you shouldn't have sculpture inside, although we have our favourite piece sitting here. But we then decided that we would invite sculptors we would commission pieces and show them here and try and sell them for them, so that we had a continuously changing exhibition of sculpture, and not like in a museum where you can come every day for a year and only see the same things.
Yeah.
Here, every few months, there was something new, and something went away, something new came. And that was how it grew.
Yeah.
The first question I always ask an artist is, do you have a dream that something that you've always wanted to do? And then nearly always they say yes. And I say, right, we'll help you do it.
Yeah.
And that is how we've had such interesting pieces.
Basically, he had this
Tower of Discovery, it called it.
Yes, Tower of Discovery, and he came for lunch, and he said he'd come with his wife, and he rang and he said he couldn't come with his wife, and when he came, he was very anti everything. He said, you haven't got enough money to do this thing, and very un-English. He wanted to know how much money we had, and we told him we had unlimited money. And when he came, in the morning we walked around, and it was all trees here, there was nothing here. And we had lunch, and he got a lot of wine in him, and after lunch he said, I think I'll go round with you again. And when we went round, he saw where I was intending to put a big sculpture there on the fence line, and he said, I've thought about it. I've got a piece coming back from Spain, and I think it could go here. There were only trees there. So I said, that's fine. But he said it weighs, I can't remember how many tons it weighed, a lot of tons. He said, you'll have to build a road to get this piece down here. So I said, how long have I got? He said, well, it's coming on Monday. This was on Saturday. So I said, that's all right. And he was very impressed with that. So, and when it came, the road was there. And actually, in the end, the Tate paid for it to move something else. So that was not too bad. And eventually, as Jeannette just said, we sold it to this Tokyo Museum for £1 million. But we didn't get a penny because there was a gallery in the middle of it. So we learnt that wasn't perhaps the best deal for the foundation, but it was good. And but what it did for us, now it's very interesting. This really, I think, when we approached other sculptors to come and do pieces here, the fact that Caro had put a Beja piece here gave us credence.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that
was-
so we owe a lot to
Right.
him.
Tony.
Wilfred and I met about 5-6 years ago now.
That's right.
And to have the opportunity to be a director of a foundation of this magnitude, you know, to take on Wilfred and Jeannette's amazing work. It's taken a long time of working together every day so that I can really learn and grasp what Wilfred and Jeannette's original mission is, you know, and I feel now, 4 years on, equipped to run the organisation on a day-to-day basis. We've made a lot of changes in the last few years. We've built our board of trustees and made it an independent, solid charity that can then move forward, continuing the mission to commission large-scale sculptures, working with the breadth of artists, really championing contemporary sculpture.
She's a good learner.
I'm pleased you think that. And so every day is different. Sometimes we're talking about the past and we're talking about particular different artists, or, you know, how to sell a sculpture that's been here for 10, 15 years. Some days we talk about the future in much more detail, about how we develop using robotics, as Wilfred is so passionate about electronics and how that influences. We also talk in depth about how to engage with collectors, where to place the sculptures, and how we really, being in the south of England, in the Goodwood, on the Goodwood estate, it's very difficult to get people out of London. And so we brainstorm about different ways of embracing, giving those collectors an opportunity that they wouldn't necessarily come across.
Yeah.
It's really important to have an active programme here. So we have a mixture of commissioned works and loaned works. And the Chapman Brothers' recent loaned work is a good example of how we're working with established artists and raising the exposure of contemporary sculpture on that scale. In order to develop our relationships with collectors and to have that reach to place sculptures, unlike our first 10 years or even 15 years, we now have to have really solid partnerships with galleries and with institutions around the world. And the Chapman Brothers' work, we've worked really closely with Blaine Southern to enable this exhibition, and it works for all parties involved, and it means that a sculpture on such a grand scale at 8 meters high, the Mika, public can really appreciate it, and it's not very often that you get a Chapman Brothers work in West Sussex. Significance of this room, the story behind this room.
room, we don't know where it's going to go, but this is an idea. These two rooms are ideas rooms. And this will, for the first time, be a visual setting here of where you can look at maquettes and from every single angle, you can look underneath them, up them. It shows the strength of the foundation because you're constantly thinking of how you can look at sculpture. And people tend to look at sculpture like they look on drawings, but that's totally wrong. You've got to look up, down, sideways, even weight in your hand.
Yeah.
But I personally think this room, it may be that when we build it somewhere else, we will have a whole circle. But you actually, this will, you don't need that many pieces. Most collectors more or less know before they come what they want for their houses.
Yes.
Okay, let me just tell the story. Prue Leith came here one day, just as a, you know,
As a
one of the
friend.
many visitors, and she got hold of me, and she told me that she'd been for years trying to find a sculpture that everybody agreed, the Queen's mother, the Queen's racehorse, you know, you name it, Churchill, da-da-da. And she wanted a sculpture on top of that. She had somewhere around 4 different committees deciding who should be on this thing. So when she came and told me about this, I said, "What's your problem?" She said, "The problem is nobody's prepared to put any money for making the sculpture. We've got 36 ideas, but and we might be able to get those down to 4 or 5, but no more than that." So I said, "Well, I tell you what, we'll take it over. You can have a committee of British people, Sandy Nairn, and other people, and Jeanette and I will join that committee, but we don't want any other interference in there." So we actually had one meeting, and we decided, the 3 artists, that we would have to start the process off. And one was Woodrow, one was
Mark Wallinger and Rachel Whiteread.
and
Rachel
Whiteread. Somewhere. Is a bottle here? I don't know.
It's in the foundation.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The original.
So anyway, so for reasons of logical, we made the first piece with Bull Woodrow, which went
Mark.
We
Yes.
actually started with Mark Wallinger,
Yes.
but in those days we didn't have too much of a structure here, so we did it without any paper, and Wallinger eventually came and said, "If you pay me £2,000, I will make the piece for." It seems a very incredible thing to have something £2,000. But anyway, we said, well, we're not really interested in seeing a sculpture made for £2,000 on Trafalgar Square. So he went. I agreed that he could go ahead and just do that, and he did one in plaster. And huh?
The figure of Christ.
Figure of Christ. And it was an enormous success, unbelievable. And his agent, I think, sold about 20 of them for £1,000. So he made a lot of money. But we didn't have to pay anything. Then we paid Rachel, and then we paid Bill Woodrow. The book, which was published by
Art books.
Well, it was really published by our present Foreign Secretary.
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, Boris. And And it's actually, just read the front of it out.
So, Fourth Plinth, how London created the smallest sculpture park in the world.
That's right. And when we commissioned the pieces, we had no idea it would grow the way it's grown. I think 3 new pieces every year. So it's a sort of replica of what's happening here, really. But from our points of view, the Fourth Plinth is really important, isn't it?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
It's
And who knows, it's a kind of thing that one might do in other countries,
yeah, you never know.
because it's a great success and not a great cost either.
Thank you very much for having us here. We really enjoy the talk with you, and we will come back here again and look at other new sculptures setting up at the premises here. Thank you very much.
We thank you for your company too. We enjoyed hearing about the past.
Okay, you're welcome.